So I understand that you all are interested in rental inspections and rental licensing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it starts up first of next year.
Okay. I'll just kind of give you a general overview. If you have any questions along the way, just shout them out. And sometimes if I'm talking and you say something, I can't hear you. So if you say something and I appear to be ignoring you, I'm not. It's just I didn't hear you. So I'll go ahead and just jump in. I'm logged into Citizenserve, and this is what you see when you first log in. It's your welcome page, and it's kind of dashboard of whatever you have going on. So up in the tasks section, you'll have any of your tasks that are due, and a task could be a review, if you get a new application, you route that to different people for review. That could be a review task. It could also be inspections. Your appointments might also be inspections. Appointments are a little bit different. They're more like a calendar item, something you have to do on a given day. So that's typically like a rental inspection would be that. And your tasks are more of something that pop up on your list and they stay there until you finish them. And we'll dive into more detail on that. But I'm just going to start by putting in a new license application. So to do that, I'm going to go to Add, and I'll select a business license. And let's say, here's our description. Let's say we're doing a rent. So the first field here is just what's our description. Let's say we're doing a rental of a duplex or something. And I can type in an address. I'm going to plug in 116 Paddock. And I can search here. And as part of your setup, we get all your parcel data. And so that'll allow you to automatically pull in property ownership information, parcel number, legal description, any of that parcel-related data that you've got. So I can click Select All, and it'll automatically pull all that information in. And once I do, I may see a flashing red exclamation point. If I see that, that means that there's an alert on this property that someone has plugged in for some reason. And I can just click it, and it'll say, oh, there's a dangerous dog here. And you can say on what day it was added and who added it. So if there's any alerts, those will show up as soon as you select the property. You can also take a look at it on a map. So if I go into the map, it'll pull up that address. And these scroll bars don't normally appear. It's just because I've got my page so zoomed out. But it'll pinpoint where that address is. It'll give you the information. You can look at it on the map. If you've got any layers, you can click those. So if I wanted to take a look at zoning, I just click that layer and it'll show me all of my different zones. So if I want to see, well, what zone is this, I can click the actual zone and it'll pop up and show me that it's a R1. So the different colors represent different zones, so you could look at all of those. You could look at parcel lines, streets, any geographic areas or layers that you've got, we can load in the system. I'll close this and we'll just keep plugging in information. So I've got all the property or parcel information. I'm going to jump down here and select the license type. Now in our demo, we've got different kinds of licenses. We've got business licenses, and I just sent up some rental license information just to kind of show you how it would work. So from here, I'll select duplex. Once I choose that, it checks to see if I have an automatic review route or a workflow route associated with that license type. And in this example, I do. And what a review route is it's just a set of tasks. So whoever has to look at this and approve it before we can issue it, they're going to have a task on our list. And so in this example, we're just going to do a submittal review, which is maybe a check-in kind of a thing where you just make sure, oh, yeah, we got the fees, we got the form, we got the documents. Now let's send it off to someone to do the full review. And then we have it going off to another person for doing the actual review. And you can put as many items in here as you want. If you wanted to put an inspection in there, if an inspection is required, you can insert an inspection. You can configure how many days each task is, how much time you've got for each individual review activity. And then this last one is optional. You don't have to do this. But what we've set up here is we say, okay, when everyone else is done, send it back to James Kirk so that he knows that everything's finished and we can go ahead and issue the license. And we'll walk through each one of these steps in the review process here in just a second. I'm going to just click Save, and then I can plug in the rest of my information. If I click Copy up there, it'll just copy my description that I typed in up above. I'll select the status of under review. We'll check a licensee. This could be the property owner, or if it's someone else, maybe it's a property management company, I could plug that in. So I'll just hit Add Contact. Let's see, we've got ABC Property Management. And I'll do a search to see if they're in the system. If if they were in there, they would be listed. I could click select, but they're not, so I'll set up a new one. And we'll give them an address. And maybe we got an email. And a couple phone numbers. I could put in more information if I wanted to, but that's just the basics. So I'll select add, and then we can start plugging in the rest of our information. We're going to leave these dates blank for now because we're not going to issue it. And this information is sort of the general information that comes with every type. These fields down here are custom fields, so we can set up as many different types of custom fields as you want. They can be drop-down fields, checkboxes, date fields, numeric fields. There's a lot of different options that you can plug in there. But for this example, I just plugged in a couple simple ones. So let's say parking spaces. Let's say we've got 6. Let's say we've got 2 units, max occupancy of 20 people, and we can select an emergency contact. Maybe that's going to be our property owner. And then down here, if you require certain forms that they must submit with their application, you can set up a field of that. So I say that we're requiring a declaration of compliance and disclosure. I can click select to go find a file for that. So I'm just going to grab some file that's on my computer here, but this might be just a PDF scanned image of their form. I'll just grab this as an example and attach it. Now, if they were doing this online, which I'll show you the online component once we kind of go through this, they would be entering all this information, whoever your applicants are. So once I attach it, it's just here, and I can click it, and anyone can take a look at whatever this document is that I've added. So I've got all my basics in. I'm just going to scroll down here and click Save. That's going to set up our file, and it's going to assign it a license number. So in this example, the license number is RNT, but you can have it be whatever 3 characters you want it to be, up to 3. It could be 1 if you only want 1. So I'm going to click it just so we can see what it's done with the fees. So it's assigned automatic fees. And in this example, I have it based on the subtype and the number of units. So $50 a unit for duplexes. If I change this to rooming homes, I think I have rooming homes only set up for $25 each. So I'll just change it. And you can see that it adjusts the fees. So your fees can be automatic. You can, if you collect any kind of state percentage fees or anything like that, we can generally plug all of your fees in there so they're automatically calculated. If I wanted to plug in payments, let's say the check came with it, I can plug that in. And if I leave this blank, it'll default to today's date. And we got it from that person. It was $50. We've applied our payment, so you can see amount due is 0 right now. We've got our basic permit information in. So that's how we put in the actual application. Does that part make sense? Any questions on that?
Just a basic question on the whole thing. Is this web-based or is it local on the server?
It's web-based. It's all on the internet. You can get to it from anywhere you want.
Excellent.
Now those maps that you showed earlier, does that come with the basic price? Is that something extra or?
That comes with it. That's just, we use Google Maps. So that comes with your setup. And if you have any layers within your own GIS system, we can load those for you as well. And that's also included in your setup.
Excellent. Oh, and then also is small changes included in the yearly fee?
I didn't quite hear all of that. Can you repeat?
Yeah, this may be a question for later, but like the yearly maintenance fee, does that include like simple changes?
The annual maintenance fee, it covers unlimited user support. So if you said, hey Julie, we want this to say units and or rooms, I could change that. If you want new reports, if you want to change your fees, I mean it includes everything, unlimited user support. The only thing that it wouldn't include that might be extra is, let's say if you wanted to integrate with your financial system or something, that would be an extra fee. But it covers most everything. It's very rare for us to have any add-on fees. Again, like I said, the only extra thing would be like integration, stuff like that. Now, there's certain things that you can't change. So these tabs across the top, for example, these are just what they're called. If you said, hey, I want to call documents, files, I can't change that. So there's certain things that can't be modified. They're just basics in the system. but everything like your custom fields, your forms and letters, your notices, your reports, all that's configurable, so we can change any of that.
Perfect.
All right, so let's take a look at how the review process works. I'm just going to save this permit and jump over here to our Reviews tab. Now, in our case file, we have these different tabs across the top that let us view different information about this file, and these options are on the top, on the side here, let us edit or add. So if I go to the Reviews tab, I can see that we've got one review route called the Rental Permit Review. If I click this little plus, it'll show me the individual activities required within this review. So we can see that there's one that's currently under review, and the way we can tell that is that the status is under review and that it's got a due date but no completion date. So that means that this person is working on this task, and these second two, they're sort of waiting. They're not even started yet until this one gets done. So then if I'm a user, how do I know that there's something been assigned to me? I'll show you that. We're going to jump over here to the welcome page again by clicking our logo. It shows up in your task list. So here it is. So there's our permit number. We're doing a submittal review. It shows us the address, and here's the date that it starts and when it's due. Once it goes past due, like these ones, it'll turn red. So I get a visual indicator if I'm taking too long to finish this. So let's say I'm going to do our submittal review. I'm just going to click this task, and all the tasks are set up basically the same up at the top. You have the start date, which is optional, the date that it's due, the date you completed it, and the status, whether it's under review, complete, whatever, and who it's assigned to and what it is. These fields down here are configurable or customizable. You can add as many or none if you don't want any. So these are kind of just additional fields that are required for each of our individual activity types. So this activity type is a submittal review, and for this we've set up just a couple of requirements checklist fields. So in this example, this is an intake person kind of looking at the application, making sure we got all the information we need before we even start. So in the application form, I can say, all right, we received that. And let's say the declaration. If I want to go look at, well, what do they give us for that? I can click this ... which is going to pull up our permit. I can look at everything. What is it? Who is it? And go, oh, I want to look at the document that they gave us. And let's say that they gave us a completely wrong form. We can say, all right, we're going to call that an incomplete item. So here I'm going to say it's missing, and in the notes I can say, I can put some generic text. And so now maybe I'm going to change the status and call this incomplete, and I'm going to send them a letter saying, hey, you didn't give us everything. So to send a letter, I'm going to just click Generate Letter, and then I'm going to send it to our ABC Property Management, and I'm going to send them the Rental Application Deficiency Notice. The notices that are in these drop-downs are all customizable. So all of your forms and letters, notices, everything that you're generating, we're going to plug it into the system for you. You can always change it, add more, remove them as you need. So I'll just select that Rental Application Deficiency Notice and click Generate. I'm going to show you this in print preview. It looks more like a document that way. So here's just a standard letter. And you can kind of make it look however you want. In this example, it pulled out some standard text for that missing item. And then here's the extra sentence that I provided. So you can configure these, make them look however you want. So we could print this and mail it, or we could email it, whichever we prefer. And once we do that, it says, do you want to save a copy of this? I can select yes, and it's going to be saved here on our Documents tab. Documents tab is going to have everything over time, all of our notices, forms, inspection reports, any notices that we generate or letters are going to be listed here. So I'm going to jump back here to Reviews. We'll take a look at this. And we're still kind of in a standstill. This is incomplete. It's not done. We're just going to wait for that information to come back. So let's say it came back. I could go ahead and pull it up and say, all right, we've got everything now. I'll select all of these are received. And I can say that this is complete. These statuses are also configurable, so you can put whatever you want in there. I'll give it a completion date and save it. And now if I look at our review tasks here, the first one's complete, it's got a date, and now it's been moved over to Leonard McCoy over there to do his permit review. So this is now on Leonard McCoy's drop-down or task list, and it's off of James Kirk's. If I jump back over here, we can see that that third one is now gone. So that's how they kind of come into your list. You do the tasks that you would do required for that type of review or activity, and then it gets moved on to the next person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So let's just say that I'm Leonard McCoy and I did the actual review. And let's say this one was just easy peasy and I can just mark it approved. We'll click Save. Now that those two are done, it's moved it back down to James Kirk so that he knows that he can issue this permit. So that, again, is going to pop up on my to-do list, my task list. I can pull this in, take a look at it, say we're ready to issue it. I'll just pull this up, change the status to issued, and it can automatically populate all your approval issue and expiration dates. Click Save to that, and now I'm going to say that I'm done with this, and I'm just going to issue the license. So once I do that, I can see all my tasks are done, the total review is done, and to generate my license document, I just come here, and it's a template letter here. I'll click Rental Certificate and click Generate Letter. And here's a sample. Yours will look however you want it to look, but this is just an example of that. You could print it and mail it. You could email it, whichever makes most sense. Once I do that, it asks if I want to save a copy. I select yes, and it goes again here on our Documents tab. So we have a history. We're going to be able to see when did it come in? Do we have a deficiency? When did we issue the certificate? If there is any correspondence through the review route, those will all be there as well. So that's kind of an overview of the review process and how you actually issue those licenses. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hey, can you bulk issue? We don't really need, we're simple, so we don't need review processes or anything like that. We're mostly going to have money coming in and then just print the licenses. So, I mean, can this be simplified?
Yeah, we would just skip all those steps, and we'd probably make it a batch. So instead of doing it one by one, like when it happens, if money is really the only criteria, then we'll create a report that says just go find all the licenses that have been paid and print a certificate for them. So we'll do it in one big batch.
Okay, so it can batch. Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm. And here's sort of an example of that. If I go into reports, I have a batch for renewal notices. So this renewal notice is a report, and when I pull it up, you can't really tell the criteria here. It's sort of built into it, but you can have options for it. It's saying go find all the licenses that are due for renewal, and then you just run it, and it prints out. Let me do a print preview again so you can kind of see how it looks as a letter. It sends a letter to every person, you know, on that list who needs a rental permit. So that's sort of the batching. What we talked about a second ago is sort of the opposite of a renewal letter. We would just print a certificate. If they met this criteria, print a certificate for them. And if you're doing, do you do like annual inspections?
Yes.
So those would work the same way as well. You'd say, you know, run a list of everyone who's due for an inspection, merge it with a letter. You can either print the letter and mail it, or you can do an email, or both, combination of both. If you have some people without addresses or email addresses, you could just mail to them and email everyone who you have an email for. Does that part make sense, the batching of things?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I'll show you the inspection part. Let me just go. Here's a quick find. So quick find is if you know a license number or certain information, you can jump to it really quickly. If this really isn't sufficient, you don't know, some kid's calling and he doesn't know anything about his property, you could go to find and you could search on any of these fields to try to locate it. So quick find is quick and easy if you know exactly what you're looking for. Advanced find is helpful when you don't really have all the specifics. You can put in a date range that it came in. You could put in an area or a type or personal information, that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of ours, and we'll schedule an inspection. So let's say this one we just added. So to schedule an inspection, you can. This is individually if you're not batching them. You can just come under Request Inspection. Say we're going to do a rental inspection. And then if you schedule specific times, we'd set it up like this. If you don't really do times or specific dates, you wouldn't have the time portion on there. But I'll go ahead and pick this. And it shows you that person's calendar. So I can see, all right, he's already got something at 2. Let's move this one to 4. And we'll make it an hour. And click Save. that's how you schedule those. And then from the inspector's perspective, he's going to see them here on his rental or on his My Appointments list. I can pull up my schedule. I can look at it from a month view. I can look at it from a week view. I can look at it from a day view, depending on whatever makes sense. Now, do your inspectors have laptops or iPads or anything out in the field?
I was going to ask about that. How does it look? Can it be used like with an iPhone?
It works great with an iPad, and actually we've seen lots of our customers moving towards that just because they're not that expensive, they're easy to carry around, and they're easy to use. And it works basically the same way. The only difference really is instead of me using my mouse, I'm using my finger.
Okay.
Basically the same. They can attach photos. They can take, print out. If they have a printer, they can print out the inspection reports. If you don't have a printer, most cities just do an email. So the inspector right in the field, he'll plug in his results and then send an email with the results. So I'll walk you through that. Let's say we did this inspection. I could pull it up.
Now, I know you wouldn't be doing a lot of it, but if you just want to check things, does it work with an iPhone? If you're just wanting to look for a little piece of information?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the only downside of the phone is sometimes these buttons are kind of small with your finger. If you have fat fingers like me, sometimes you have to give it a couple of tries to get the right one. But everything works functionally. You can pull stuff up. You can look at it. You can zoom just like on any other app on the phone. So in my inspection report, let's say that these guys failed. I'll plug in the date that I did it. And then in these required corrections, this is just an example. Some people just fill in the blanks. What do they have to do? Some people have checklists. If you want your inspectors to go through a list of items that they have to do, you can set it up that way, whatever makes most sense. And normally what we do is we look at your existing inspection reports, and from that we can go, well, let's try to mirror it pretty closely to what you're doing today because it's easier for people to learn, and then we can always adjust it and change it later. So we might say window in, first bedroom. Broken.
What if you have more than 6?
What was that?
What if you have more than 6 violations?
We could set that up to have as many as you want. And if you have certain codes you're citing, we can use the violation drop-down option so that you pick a specific code or ordinance, and it'll know all the legal text that goes with that. You can kind of do it either way. But we can add as many fields as we wanted in here. Those two, and then if I want to generate an inspection report, I just click Generate Letter here. We want the rental inspection report. And then here's a simple letter. And again, we'll make this look however you want it to look. You can close it, hit yes to save a copy, and now I have this history here on my Documents tab.
Hey, how do you print with an iPad though?
You have to have a printer that goes with it. And there are certain sorts of printers that you can set up, like an air card printer is what they are. So they're wireless printers. I'm not real familiar.
Okay, but you do know that it does work. I mean, it can be. Yeah.
It can be done. Most of our customers aren't doing that. They're doing email just because it's faster, it's easier. It doesn't require the inspector to carry all the stuff around. But you can use the air card printers if you do need to print, if it's like a door hanger or something like that.
Okay.
So then on the inspections tab, here's going to be a list of our inspections over time. So if you go out there once a year, all of those inspections are going to be listed. You'll be able to see the status of each one. The information stays there unless you remove it, so nothing's going to be missing over time. You'll have a complete history over the duration of this rental property of all the inspections that happened, what the status, if there were, items that were wrong with them, you can pull it up and take a look at them. So that's an overview of the inspection. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So that's generally the licensing process, and it can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be. You can configure things as needed, forms, letters, notices, all that stuff. You can set up as many as you want or as few as you want. Any questions on that or anything I missed that you're doing that I didn't really discuss?
I think we're good for now.
Okay. Do you want to take a look at the online portion? Do you plan on doing that, allowing applicants to apply online?
Yeah. I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Do you want to have an online portal where you'll let your applicants apply through your website? Do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, I mean that as long as there's not extra cost, that sounds great. And then can you integrate it with like Visa or whatever where they could pay online?
We can. What we use right now is we use PayPal. So if you set up a PayPal account, we can accept payments online. I'll kind of show you how that works. If you don't have a PayPal account, we can integrate with other payment processors. There might be an extra fee for that depending on which one you use.
Okay, but it should just be a fee to set it up.
Yeah, it's just a one-time fee. We don't take any portion or anything weird like that.
Okay, so yeah, so if we do, because we're looking at that now, so we should be, okay, that's great. Thanks.
Okay. I'll show you the online piece. Let me just...
Oh, and some other questions with that. So if they pay, then it's gonna integrate straight into the system, right?
Right. When they pay online, the way that it works is so we calculate the fees and we go, okay, you owe $100. And then I'll show you. Let me just jump over here. So here is a sample of a online access pages for a citizen, for a city. So these options over here are based on your options. So if I go into licensing, maybe I want to apply for a license online. In this example, we're also using it for building permits as well. So we're seeing building permits here. But I'll say I want a new one. And then I'm just going to type in a description, whatever I want here. I'm going to say, all right, I'm a single-family home for residential. It shows those fields that I had. I can fill out some information here and then submit it. And so once I do that, it's over here on my licenses list, and I have a couple. Let me go find one that has fees on it. Look at this one. Oh, that's a... What is that one? Let's put this one. All right, so here's my application. If I click Make a Payment, it just goes right here. If I click Pay Now, it jumps over into PayPal, and all we do is we send it your account information and what the payment amount is and some basics. The PayPal processor processes that fee. They collect the fee. It goes into your account directly, and then all they do is transfer us a success, an authorization code, or a decline code. So we're not really handling the money in any way. We're just collecting enough information so that the payment processor can handle it. That part make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So then in your licensing, you can, let me go pull that license back up. You can show certain information. So if you wanted them to see all the reviews you've done, you can show that here. If you wanted them to see all the inspections that you've done, you can display those there as well. So you can kind of configure what they can do in here. If you want them to upload additional documents, you can put this button on or off. If they're not allowed to request their inspections, you just take this button off. So through the admin configuration part, you can disable and configure how you want this to look.
Do you have to set them up an account?
The applicants?
Yeah, like if an applicant goes, what keeps them from just like, well, I guess they wouldn't pay somebody else's bill, but what keeps them from looking at other people's?
They have to well, you have a couple of options. Let me show you this over here. Let me pull a screen over here that you can see. Let me make it bigger. This is the where you go in Citizenserve to administer this. So you come in here and you say, okay, we are going to allow registration, and they have to give us their name, their phone. You can set up, they have to give us their address, so that you're requiring what fields they have to give you.
Okay.
And then in the licensing options down here, you say, you know, we're going to let them take new applications. We're going to let them view certain information. Here's where you say whether you're going to let them schedule online payments or not. If you do let them do schedule inspections, what days and cutoff times, online payment, if there's a flat fee. So you're kind of configuring all of this.
Okay.
And there's an option, the searching. If you turn this off, then all they can really do is apply and look at their own stuff. If you turn this on, then any citizen can go in and search and go, I want to see if there's a rental license at this address. So this is, one of those things that you can turn on or off. If you want to let people search and look for stuff on their own, you check it. If you just want people to submit their own applications and look at their own stuff, then you uncheck it. So that's kind of how the online portal portion works. And so what happens, let me jump back over here. You put a link to this in your own website. So, and you can change this logo, obviously. As I said, you can configure certain things. So you'll put a link on your own website, which will drive them right here so that they can do the application process. If you don't have any reviews, then all we would really do is just, every day or every week, you'd run that batch process that says, give us all our new applications that have payments, generate the certificates, which you could either then print and mail or send them an email saying, go online and download your document.
Okay, and there's a difference between like them renewing and getting a new license.
Yeah, so if your fees are separate for renewal, you could have separate fees. When it'd be all your licenses, do they expire at the same time every year, or are they good for a year from the time of issuance?
They'll expire every year.
Same time, everyone expires at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so what month is that?
Like January 1st, December 1st.
January. So in December, you have fun printing out and mailing all these notices, and then in January, when those payments start coming in, you would just run that renewal process every day, every week to generate the certificates that came in during that period.
Yes.
And if they mail you a check, you would come in and log the payment in Citizenserve. If they paid online, it would just happen automatically.
Okay, excellent. And then one other question, like, yearly when the notices go out, can those go out by email?
They can go out by email or mail.
Okay. Does it know, like, is there a way to have it send everything to email and then print out the letters when there is no email?
The way that we generally set it up is that there's two separate processes. So you run the email one, and it grabs everybody who has an email, and it sends them an email. And then you run the separate one that's for mail, and it grabs everyone who doesn't have an email and prints out a letter.
Okay, so it can be done that way.
Yeah.
Good.
And you can, if you're moving towards an online presence, we require the email for them to register. So you can, if you push people to, I've seen people say we only are going to take them online now, just so that you can get all that information and stop having to do so much manual work.
Right.